Hey everyone, Brandon here with another Nintendo Switch news update. Today is May 21st, 2025, and we got some interesting ones today, starting right away with some new My Nintendo icons. And normally this isn't a very interesting thing to talk about, but what is interesting is that these are hardware icons, various Nintendo consoles, accessories such as controllers, and in Wave 3, from June 3rd to June 10th, you can redeem the Super Nintendo mouse as an icon for your Switch profile. And, normally this isn't something that'd be worth talking about. However, as you know, Nintendo Switch 2 features mouse controls, so this would be a good opportunity for them to include some Super Nintendo games on NSO that use mouse controls, such as Mario Paint and Mario and Wario. Honestly, I don't see any reason why this won't happen. I don't know if it would happen right around launch or, a few weeks or months later. I think at some point this year, we'll probably have Mario Paint or Mario and Wario, or perhaps both. Looking over at third parties for a little bit, the team behind Mario and Rabbids, Ubisoft Milan, is apparently hiring for a 3D gameplay animator for a, quote, prestigious AAA title for the Rayman brand. And given it says 3D gameplay, I'd be led to assume that it is a 3D Rayman platformer. And it's been a long time since Rayman has had a new game, other than the DLC to Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope. I think the most recent Rayman game was Rayman Legends, and that was originally a Wii U game. So it's been quite some time. We're kind of experiencing a 3D platformer renaissance, especially in the indie space. So seeing some of these more classic characters like Rayman re-entering the fray, so to speak, is pretty exciting. In other third-party news, we've heard from Tom Warren over at The Verge that Microsoft is planning some Xbox ports for Nintendo Switch 2, and he says to expect to hear about those soon. What those games will be remains to be seen, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Doom: The Dark Ages, if we get the Oblivion remaster, and perhaps the Gears of War remaster that is coming out on PS5 later this year. We're in full-blown Xbox doing third-party territory, so I would expect that any game that Xbox is working on is likely to find its way to Nintendo Switch 2 and other platforms at some point. We've also learned that Puyo Tetris 2S will have game share, both local and online. We actually learned this from one of our own Discord members, Caitlin, who did an article over at Gaming Trend where she was informed that Puyo Tetris 2S will feature game share, both local and online. The game itself already has online, but just having the ability to do game share with a game like Puyo Tetris, it's a puzzle game, so being able to game share and only have to have one copy of the game in order to play multiplayer over the internet is super cool, and might actually get me to be able to play it. This is a game that won't have an upgrade path from Puyo Tetris 2 Nintendo Switch to 2S on Nintendo Switch 2. So I imagine that if you want to play multiplayer, finding the one person who did buy the game and then playing with them over game share is the most likely way that that will happen. I'm still curious how game share over the internet will feel. How much latency are we going to experience while playing the game, especially a game like Puyo Tetris where your response time is important. It's still not even clear to me if the online side of game share is also streaming or if they'll download some kind of client. I assume it will be streaming, and, we've had a lot of experience with, streaming services for video games like Xbox Game Pass, PS5, Remote Play, and results are mixed, I think, and I'm curious how well it will work with Nintendo, given Nintendo's rocky history with online and online performance. But given that they're pushing this so hard, I have to imagine that it works. I guess we'll find out soon. We have an update for Mario Kart World via Nintendo Today. We got our first look at a free roam mission, basically. And this one's pretty cool. They're playing as Cow, and the mission, you hit the P switch to start the mission, and the mission is to navigate through a sea of cows and get to the end. It's pretty cute. It reminds me a lot of the kinds of missions you'd play in Mario Kart DS, so I think that's pretty indicative of what kind of missions we'll be experiencing when the game comes out. Interestingly, they purposefully fail the mission so that we don't see what the reward is. So we still don't know what you actually get for completing missions out in the open world. Could be stickers that you can put on your cart, maybe unlockable characters. It's really hard to say because they won't tell us. I hope it's more interesting than stickers and characters, and maybe there's some other element to the game that we haven't seen yet, but that remains to be seen. And to finish things off, we have some early versions of the Pokemon logo to look at. This was an article by Rebecca Valentine over on IGN with Chris Maple, the logo designer for Pokemon here in the West. And there are several sketches and early concepts of what the Pokemon logo would look like here in the US. It starts really rigid with these thin line logo designs before becoming, bubblier and rounder. The design that we know today. There's even some differences in the color. Like at one point it was not going to be blue and yellow, but more of a reddish purple and yellow, and the Pokeball was even part of the logo at one point. Seeing these is really wild because we've had the Pokemon logo for so long that seeing these versions of what it could have been is really interesting. One of them even appears to have like a Thunderbolt, like Pikachu tail, which would have been wild because, Pikachu may be the mascot of Pokemon, but having it part of the Pokemon logo over something like a Pokeball, I just can't see it. But there it is. Do any of these Pokemon logos catch your eye? Would you have preferred any of these other versions versus the one that we eventually got? Let us know in the comments below. And for all your Nintendo Switch 2 news, reviews, and everything in between, stick here to GVG. But until then, keep the games good and the vibes greater. Bye now.